I was really very lucky to have not only super foster parents, but also that both my parents survived, and indeed there's some wonderful stories really about how some of them survived. When my mother eventually got to England, I mean, there wasn't any money around, so she worked as a domestic servant or living in, and we would see her once or twice a year or something because people didn't move around. And as I say, I think the shortage of money began to make a big difference. So unfortunately, I never really bonded with her again, and that was exacerbated by the fact that my sister Renata, who had not settled down with Auntie and Uncle, was able to live with my mother again at some stage. And she had this so-called Sophie's choice, where she had to choose between the two children, and she chose Renata. And I don't think that helped me. I sort of felt yet again rejected. I think a lot of dysfunctional families, as we became, really struggle with trying to recreate something that has been irretrievably broken. And I never bonded with Mum again. I respected her enormously. She was a very fine, hard-working woman. And nowadays, when I see my reflection in the shop window, I just see my mother, sort of quite extraordinary. In looks, we are very, very alike. But in character, no, very different. When my father went back to Germany, he eventually went back to practice law there, she refused to go back to Germany. And again, the romantic in me sort of says, how could she not go back with her husband? But in fact, they'd been separated throughout the war, and being wiser now, I can well understand that she just could not face that life again. The living standards there were absolutely ghastly. She was then settled as a teacher over here. Anyway, that broke the marriage up, and my father remarried, and things moved on. I became, therefore, really a sort of rather dutiful daughter, very conscious that I was lucky to have her at all, respecting her in many, many ways. She was very talented, but not really loving her. That's hard. Looking back at my years in the convent school, I was really very happy there. The religion was not pushed down my throat, though bits of it sort of came in almost subconsciously. But the nuns were really very professional. They recognized that I had some talent in mathematics and realized that as lay teachers, they'd never been trained, they really couldn't take me any further. So this private school suggested to Auntie and Uncle that I leave and go to a local grammar school. And I appreciate that, because that was what I needed to do. And I went to a couple of grammar schools. I got a scholarship. In those days, you really had to, I think all of us were scholarship children, unless you came from wealthy families, which Auntie and Uncle weren't. They were well established. But I really learnt in my secondary school that I wanted to be a mathematician. That was what I wanted to do. I wasn't any good at languages. I enjoyed art, but wasn't any good at it. I enjoyed English, but wasn't any, I mean, I was, yeah, from the point of view of exams, I probably studied quite hard and got some good results. But the whole pressure of my schooling was to get into work and start earning. this need to feel financially secure in my own right and not dependent on other people, to become self-sustaining, really drove me very hard. I know when I was taking the sort of exams at the end of the school, I think they were called school certificate in those days, it became desperate, absolutely desperate that I should get good results. Highly competitive. And now I don't feel competitive at all. If I've done the best that I can do at any time, I'm content. What I dislike is amateurism, and if I know I haven't done the best work that I can do.